Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer, many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites, because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Scorpio rising, sun and moon, March 2023. Scorpio, the first big event that's happening is that Saturn is moving out of your 4th house of family and home, where it's been since April 2020. For a lot of Scorpio, Saturn was probably a bit more challenging, because Saturn was making a hard aspect to your planets for the last 2-3 years. And Saturn from here makes exactly like a challenging astrological aspect, 90 degrees to Scorpio. So it was a bit more testing period. When Saturn moves into your 5th house from March the 7th till 2026 approximately, Saturn will be making a trine to Scorpio, which is more supportive aspect, making you more responsible and mature, but not in such a difficult way like during the 4th house. And you probably had to deal with family responsibilities, duties, changes with home and property, or problems there, and so on. But this is over. Saturn is moving to the 5th house. A new set of maturation experiences are starting, because Saturn wants to make us mature, responsible, more diligent in whatever area it passes. And actually might be good, because Neptune has been in your 5th house since 2012 and still there till the time Saturn leaves the 12th house. So, sorry, the 5th house. So Neptune in your 5th house maybe made it a bit harder to discriminate in your romantic love life. Maybe there was some deceptions, being misled. Maybe not all the time from 2012, it depends what degree your ascendant or sun or moon is. But sometimes maybe it can make you a little bit too idealistic when it comes to romantic partnerships, and maybe it created some, not some kind of, let's say, illusions there, or misconceptions and deceptions. And also So Saturn comes now to structurize and organize it a little bit, to show you the reality there in your romantic life, maybe to burst your bubble if you've been idealizing someone romantically, and even someone you're not with, but to help you snap out of it. Come on, don't waste your energy there. And also, the fifth house is the house of creativity. Maybe Neptune there has been making you creative. Definitely, that's a very creative position, but not able to manifest it, your ideas, your original ideas. Maybe you had a creative idea to start a business of some sort. Fifth house is all your original ideas, but it was only wishful thinking with Neptune there. Now Saturn comes and says, okay, we have to make it happen. You've been having this passion, you have this natural talent. Let's organize ourselves and let's take practical steps towards achieving it. Saturn wants to materialize things. So you might be doing something like that. Or maybe you discover something that you're good at, that you're not aware before, and you start doing it, something that you have strong interest and passion towards, and you start doing it professionally, because Saturn is the planet of career, of work, and fifth house is your passions, your natural talent. Saturn is there to structure them, to organize them. On another level, you might notice that the fifth house is one of the pranic houses, where prana, life force, comes to us. It rules the etheric house, the etheric body, and the spleen as well, where we receive the solar pranic energy through. And so Saturn can suppress it a little bit. My husband just came out of Saturn in his fifth house, and it's for the last 2.5 years. He said definitely 2-3 years he's had lower energy levels than normal. That happens every time Saturn is in the first, fifth, or ninth houses, because they're pranic houses of life force, and Saturn slows it down, kind of pinches it. And that's also so you can prioritize where to spend your life force and your life energy, because it's not, we become more aware of aging, maturation, and so on during our personal aging, the process of our personal aging and maturation, where Saturn is in those self houses. And in the fifth house, it's asked us, where do you spend too much time wasting your life force and energy on useless things that just waste your time? So a person can naturally limit themselves from more meaningless or unproductive activities, which we call leisure times, like playing computer games and so on, or just hanging out pointlessly in bars with friends. And you become more mature in respect to that, because you realize your life force is limited, and you realize that you want to take this natural potential you have and make something constructive with it. So you maybe will redirect a lot of your life force into more meaningful things, like building a business or taking care of the most important, children, as well as the fifth house. Following some, taking some creative idea and turning it into something useful. So you might be able to, and my husband said that's in the last 3 years when he started, he said, I grew out of my party phase. Partying is fifth house activities. Woo! And he says, like, I don't feel like going to bars or going to nights out anymore. So, and I was like, oh, that's so boring. I still want to party. Like, I can't grow up. I'm trying to, but gradually. And he's definitely become more mature as an individual. He had a lot more responsibilities with children, and he was the one. Saturn in the fifth house can teach you to be more disciplined to your children if you have, and to be more deliberate, because usually with Saturn in the fifth house, it can bring complications in the relationship of the child or in the life of the child, some difficulties due to their lack of organization, due to their lack of maturity. So it can indicate a phase where you're helping your children mature, where you're helping them create healthier habits, where you're helping them be more organized. My husband's focus was so much about making the children way more disciplined, to go to bed, to brush their teeth, and so on. He learned this with Saturn in his fifth house over the last 3 years. So now it's your turn, if you have children as well, to mature through children. Sometimes it can give some difficulties, more tense situations, especially with, if you have also more mature or grown-up children. or the circumstances around them, and younger, doesn't matter. On another level, it can mean that your child is entering a phase of maturation, more responsibility, more growth. And if you're trying to get pregnant, sometimes Saturn there can block things a little bit because it's a fertile house of conception. Saturn is infertile planet. So just telling you. And on another level, it's like you might be restrained a little bit to have fun and enjoy yourself because of responsibilities and duties. Saturn rules also your third house. The rule of the third house goes into the fifth. So it's maybe you're doing something that third house is mental skills, anything, any learned and acquired skills that you're trying to, maybe you have a lot of demand for work with your mind and so on, and that's what is kind of restricting. And Saturn rules your fourth house of family as well. There can be family responsibilities of some sort that pinch a little bit the availability and the ability to have fun and so on. So Saturn will make you re-examine and restructure how you do love. Me and my husband had not so much opportunities to go out and have fun. Saturn can limit it as a couple, but also it can bring into your life more mature, responsible partners romantically, ones that you connect with to do something constructive rather than just for fun and sex or whatever. So you become more serious about relationships on another level. And Saturn can make you remove any structure and organize yourself around creative activities. So say if you're someone who writes books or music, or who has their own business and they have to create their own content, write their own article, create their own products. This is all fifth house activities because it's your own ideas. Then Saturn you can be very successful. Saturn is planet of organizing yourself, making yourself, okay, I finally am going to write this book. Saturn rules the third house of writing. Going in the fifth house, you can say like, I'm going to finally write this book. Every day I'll give, like, you become more like a soldier, organized. Every day for 2 hours I'll write 20 pages or something like that. So you can be more productive, but at the same time with ideas, usually ideas that you already have and wanted to do for a while, and get them sorted out and do them. But it can pinch a little bit new creative ideas, the new flow of creativity, or you need to be very organized and train it into you, like Pavlov's dog, that if you don't feel creative today, but you force every day for 2-3 hours or to do something, or for a few minutes, whatever, after that you would notice yourself that it comes automatically. And sometimes Saturn in the fifth house can give us some romantic tests, going back to the meaning of the fifth house as romantic planet, but that's only so you can realize where to put boundaries, because sometimes we allow people that take romantically, we allow people that take advantage of us, or people that are not responsible, people that are wishy-washy romantically. So you need to clarify yourself with others, and you'll do this what it is you want, and you can still attract romantic relationships, but on a more mature, responsible basis, rather than just the Neptunian haze of, oh, let's have fun, let's be in love. No, let's be in love, but also be responsible and be there for the long term and do something together constructively and so on. So that's what Saturn will try and do for you. Plus Saturn will be sending trine to Scorpio for the next 3 years, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, especially if it's the sun in Scorpio. When the trine is active for a year, especially, it can make you do something in your career that's long lasting and that is stable, and whatever you do will give, say you change a job, then it's going to be for a long-term job, it's going to give long-term results, or so on. If it's your moon in Scorpio, Saturn will make a trine to it, so it can stabilize your relationships with family, with emotional relationships of any sorts. They can become more solid, a bit more perfunctory and automatic and distant, but also more reliable. And if it's your ascendant, all of those things we talked about, and can make you be more responsible with your physical health as well if it's the ascendant. Then the other big event that's happening is that Pluto on March 23rd will enter your fourth house, where Saturn's been for 3 years. So Saturn just did the beginning work for you, just cleaned a little bit, while Pluto will do the deep work for the next 20 years in one of these astral houses, which is houses of family, which is house of memories of ancestors, which is house of the first part of your life, your childhood. So Pluto will ask many of you for the next 20 years. I cannot tell you if it will start immediately. Maybe it depends what ascendant you have in Scorpio, Sun, and Moon, what degree. The earlier degrees will feel it strongly from already 23, 24, 25, but later born Scorpios, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant can feel this Pluto purification of the astral body later on. Later, depending on the degree. So my webinar on Pluto in Aquarius, I will give you all the years and the degrees, how to see it, and you'll see, okay, I'm 12 degrees Scorpio Moon or Scorpio Sun, so Pluto will square my Sun from the fourth house, or my Moon or my Ascendant in 2031 or something like that. So you'll know exactly when this will peak and what it will mean. But Pluto will require you over the next 20 years, and it will give you some insight about how things will change and what the direction of the evolution of your soul will be for the next 20 years already from this year, because it dips for a couple of months. Even if it doesn't reach your degree, it dips, so it triggers something that will show you where the focus will be. So it's when it enters here in your fourth house, and what it will, because Pluto is the evolutionary goals of the soul, so it's so important. Whatever else is happening, it will filter through Pluto, all other transits that are happening in you, because the main goal of your soul is to clean this astral body of karmic attachments and ancestral patterns, because the fourth house rules exactly what are the patterns of our ancestors. There's someone, there's like a long abuse of substances history in your family, or there's mental health history in your family, or there is like a divorce history in your family, and it's almost like we're karmically compelled to repeat those patterns. And Pluto enters your fourth house and says, enough, we're breaking karma. Pluto is destruction and rebuilding. You're going to destroy the old family narrative, and this, you'll be like, this stops with me. So, and it's usually there'll be a lot of going back into the childhood, and some of you might work with a therapist at certain period during this time. And the earlier you do it, the faster the results will be. To reframe the past, to understand it, to transform it. Many times there's trauma that we haven't forgiven or haven't processed, and Pluto will bring us back to it in some way. Maybe an event that repeats now in your current life, in your current family, that repeats a situation of your early family or ancestors, and you're wondering, why is this happening? And it keeps repeating and repeating until you understand this pattern and you become aware of it. All Pluto asks you to become aware of it. It brings to the surface the unconscious. This is what Pluto does. And when you do it, you have years after that to work on transforming it. You don't have to change immediately. It's a long process. I'm not saying it's going to happen after 20 years, but for some it might happen faster, for some slower, but you'll become a lot aware of those patterns, and there can be some very pivotal events happening with your family. I'll give you an example. My husband just had Pluto in his fourth house in the last 12, 14 years. A lot of personal life changes. He bought and sold many properties, first of all. This was the first time he settled. This was the time he married and divorced as well. This was the time important family members passed in his life. And the moment Pluto was exactly at his fourth house cusp, which happened when he met me, he had birth of 2 children, becoming a parent, big transformations in the personal life. 2 children, 2 new properties, and living with, and starting to live with his mom. His mom came to live with us to help with the children, and he found a lot of secrets about his family that he didn't know, because he has no memory of his childhood. He has Neptune in the fourth house, so he's kind of forgotten, and he became aware of a lot of secrets that he didn't know about. So there'll be some shocking revelations that Pluto reveals maybe not shocking, but well, something you didn't know for sure from the subconscious, about memories even that you have, or traumas of the family that you had to deal with, to process, to understand. And this will basically, it will be like a healing process, and you understand them and you release them and you clear up your, so to speak, your astral body, you know, because the astral body carries the pains. This is the emotional body. It carries the pain body. It carries the traumas. So it can feel like emotionally intense, heavy period, but a lot of good things can happen. A lot of depends, you know, like, but it will always kind of filter through this, the need to clear up your astral attachments. These are one of the desire houses of the desire body, the astral body. So you free yourself from desires, especially desires and attachments that are childhood ones, or that were implanted in you from the family dynamics, or from the family history. So a lot of important deep psychological work. Plus, I think Pluto can empower you a lot. Some of you can become property moguls in the next 20 years. So if you go in any field, the fourth house career, you can transform society or get empowered, get like a lot of big bucks as well. Pluto can rule that. But Pluto is you. So Pluto going into your fourth house will invest Scorpios a lot in private life, settling down, a family, big changes with the personal life. Some, if they're married, they might get divorced, or they get married, or they can start a family, or they can move or transform their. One good remedy is transform your house, or start doing fixer-uppers, or you know, something which is very Plutonic, death and rebirth of properties and so on. But there can be some very intense exchanges with family members, some very meaningful and transformational ones, but also power struggles with family members that you're asked to direct, and the exact intensity of this, and sometimes like family members leaving your life, you know, type of thing, but new ones being born. Like I said, it's the cycle of Pluto, death and rebirth. The exact time is when Pluto squares your sun, moon, or ascendant, or passes right at the fourth house cusp, if it's in Aquarius for you. So big changes there on psychological, emotional level. And some of you might become and empower others through working with family constellations, or by being in property, or being in psychological counseling, or being in careers of nurturing, nourishing of some sort, and really get invested emotionally and psychologically, because Pluto is very passionate, intensely focused on anything to do with country, history, folklore, habits, traditions, the past, national identity, protection, nurturing, even businesses like hospitality and you know, catering, hospitality, and so on. You can empower or make big changes and big transformations and successes there through this Pluto in the fourth house. But as I told you, the deep evolutionary goal of Pluto in the fourth house is to stir the traumas from childhood and pain, to bring them to the surface so you can transform them, release them, and be freer psychologically, emotionally from the heavier influences, so to speak, the heavier emotional influences that were your blind spot, and to create more stable foundation for you for life. But yes, power struggles can happen and so on, but you're Scorpio, you know how to deal with that. So now with Pluto in Aquarius, all Scorpios in the period of the next 20 years will experience some big transformation that they'll be never the same after. But Scorpio naturally, all their life are supposed to have transformations periodically, but Pluto will just bring it on now in a powerful way. And if you want to hear more, I speak a lot more about the external and internal manifestations of Pluto in the fourth house in my webinar for 2023, Pluto in Aquarius. That is only $39 for early birds, or $49 for late February. Or you can watch my video if you don't want to participate in webinars for 2023 for Pluto, which is 3 hours long. It's only $21. Now, the other important events just for March now. it doesn't span long term. It's Jupiter meeting Venus in your 6th house. The two planets, very positive planets, are meeting at the very start of March in your 6th house. So something very good can happen in the 6th house here in March. What is it? 6th house can be some good news about your job or work or employees that can be positive. Employees can help you, or you can find employment, or some project that you're really enjoying or it's positive can come at work. Also, for some of you, it can mean new routines and habits that are very enjoyable, very knowledgeable as well, that can come to you. Something good coming, maybe starting to work out, exercise, drink smoothies, in developing love and enjoyment for something healthy, or some kind of service or work that is very gratifying for you. On another level, Mars has been in your 8th house since the August 2022. It went retrograde there. For some of you, it might have given some issues with finances, resources, partners' finances, resources, and so on. Stresses in that area. For others, might have given some secrets coming to the surface, or some stresses with taxes, insurances, inheritances. Well, Mars is till the end of March in that 8th house, but things are moving ahead, starting to be solved. Also, 8th house is some kind of battles that might have been happening, power struggles, or for money and resources and so on. Well, this will be all solved by the end of March, and it's ending, it's solved. Or if you work to rebudget, restructure your finances, redo them, it will start giving result, and then Mars leaves and everything is fine. Or if you've been going through something to do with taxes or stresses there, they get resolved and they finish. Or if you've been in some battle for resources with another, again, this should be solved and finish after that. So there you go, guys. This is what I see for you. Interesting times. Pluto, Saturn. I hope you save this video and come back to it so you have the higher perspective of what the meaning of those events that will be happening for many years ahead for you will be. Thank you.